have you heard the one where I went from training as a psychic to prophetic ministry? So, for people that are like don't believe in anything, this is really going to sound like I went from one woo woo to another woo woo, but that's not how I see it. So I will put it out there and let you be the judge. Well, try not to judge. But anyways, when I first moved here, taking classes, and I talked about this in my other videos, but training to be a psychic, whatever that means. I knew I believed in God. I knew that, the words like that I was hearing, I had been gifted with since I was like little. So I had always had like discernment where I could just be like, that something ain't right about that, or I would hear like words and or smell smells, or be able to have like a feeling of like atmosphere, like this room, somebody's upset about something. I just had that from very early on. So I'm like, let's train to be a psychic. That'd be great. And during this time, you know, there were, spirits. That's what I, called upon. So it's like you got your guardian angel for this. You got this whatever spirit's gonna help you find whatever, and you're gonna call upon this one to do tap dancing. I don't know. I just had a lot of different entities that I talked to. And my girl Janelle, I remember, she's the one that got me into like reading the Bible recap and like all of the shifts that happened in my head. She's like, well, I don't understand. You believe in God. Why aren't you just like aligning with God? And something like flipped in my head, and I'm like, well, she's like, yeah, because I mean, like if God, is the creator and above all, and he, created these, entities, why don't you just talk to him? And I'm like, that is a good question. I have no idea why I don't just talk to him. But I wasn't ready. And so I went through the whole training of like being a psychic, and it didn't work out because I got stalked by Jesus, and I have other videos about that. And things shifted and changed, and I no longer wanted to do those things. So then I was left with, I'm reading my Bible. I'm, praying now. I'm praying just to one solitary God. But I was left with the gift of like, what do I do with this? And studying more about like prophetic ministry and studying the Bible, you start to see that like all of these gifts are God-given gifts, and you can either use them to separate yourself from God, or you can use them to connect to God. So prophecy is a big word, and it's like, biblical or what have you. And it's the old-timey prophets. So like it is speaking the truth while revealing God. And so that's what I decided I wanted to do with my gift. So I had, all the muscle testing. I have all the, I guess in my file cabinet, I would say that it's going to be functional medicine. It's going to be things that are with health. And I really have, for the last month or so, tried to stop with the fingers, and it's going pretty well, and attuning to hearing words of wisdom, words of knowledge through prayer. And that's my goal, and that's what I've been doing. So I would say a few months ago, I started to understand that there was prophetic ministry out there, that this was actually a thing. And I literally Googled prophetic ministry in Sarasota, and two places came up. And I was like, the House of Prayer and like a prophetic ministry group. So I kind of like prayed on it, and I went to the prayer house, and like they like put you in the room, and they're rattling off all this great stuff and prayer for you. And it was really, really beautiful. And it was supportive, and it really helped me to see, reveal God. And it was very great. But like, and I was like, well, maybe I could, train with them, work with them, do something with them. And so they're like, oh, yes, here is something to fill out. Go ahead and fill this out, and then, return it, and we'll get, you trained up, and you could even like work here. So I was like, wow, okay, that sounds interesting. Emailed them, called them, texted them, dropped by. I got ghosted. I think they were actually going through a transition of leadership. So I didn't hear anything back. But I was like, okay, well, that was not where I was supposed to be. And it wasn't. So I decided to go to the Prophetic Ministry group, which was like a meetup group. It wasn't really into a specific church. It was just different people meeting up to practice prophetic ministry. And so I went, the first one I went to, it was actually at a beach, and I was really uncomfortable because it was like, they're like, you're going to figure out something about somebody, and then you're going to go and tell them. I'm like, I'm not comfortable with that. Like, I'm very much like, you can come to me if you really want this, or you want to, talk about something, you can come to me. I'm very wary about going to other people and like saying like, oh, by the way, I heard this for you. And it just feels very, well, actually, it feels a lot like what would happen to me growing up. Like growing up, I was bombarded by religious groups, and very much a spirit of like religion like was after me, and I was like, ah, no. So I am sensitive to that, and I don't like breaking into somebody's wall or their personal space when I'm not invited. So I didn't do that, but I did follow along and just was like, oh, nice. So I knew that there was something in this group. God kind of like let me know that like there's going to be somebody you're going to meet. And so I was like, okay, I'll just keep going. And I went a couple times, and the other times were really, more at a church, and you're practicing. So you're working with another person, and you sit with them, and you get kind of like a word to practice with, like going off of like, what is your name? And they give you their name, and then you just kind of go into prayer, and you think, you use what's inside of you to listen if you get any kind of advice or words of wisdom or anything for that person. And so then you switch, and they do the same thing. And so you kind of pray for them and see if you hear anything. And it's good practice, because really, we have the Holy Spirit inside of us, and that's the helper that's really kind of exuding out of you to listen to God and get these words. And it was a good lesson. They said the first thing you hear is usually God. The second thing you hear is usually you like second guessing that word. And then the third thing you hear is usually the enemy saying like, you didn't hear that. That was, you're ridiculous. And so go with the first thing you hear. And sometimes it's faint, and sometimes it feels like imagination, and sometimes it's ridiculously loud. So it does depend. So I started going to that, and then the last, I guess because this group happens every month. 2 times ago, I saw somebody come in, and I was like, who is that? She had like her head shaved, and I'm like, oh, I gotta meet this one. She was like about my age, and I was like thinking, oh, we could pair up. And little did I know, she saw me, and she was like, oh, we should pair up. And she came beelining over, and we paired up, and we practiced on each other. I was a little nervous because, she had the head shaved, she had like feather earrings, she was like super cool. And I'm like, oh, is this person, like New Age, like, is she trying to be a psychic and then just doing it this way like I used to? That was not the case at all. So she didn't even like have any experience in like psychic, New Age, tarot cards, any of that. She just looked hip and cool. So we ended up talking. She likes to dance. She does the flags and stuff. Beautiful, beautiful. And so she and I formed a friendship. And we started practicing together and talking, and I let her in on what I did, like the core ward and everything that I do. And she was one of the ones to urge me to stop doing the fingers. And so like she came over and I did a whole session on her sitting on my hands, and it worked out. So we decided to start a ministry together. So we are now doing Prophetic Health Ministry in Sarasota. We've been doing it a week. It is very exciting. We have no name. So if you have a good name for a prophetic health ministry, you can drop it in the comments and we'll give you a free session. It's usually about like a 2-hour session, and we're doing it all in person at people's homes. It's just people she knows. She knows everybody. So everybody she brings to me, we pray about and like see if like maybe is this person a good person to work with or no. Before we do anything, we make sure that we're a good fit. And we'll probably still be doing Zoom, and I'll still be doing core ward if, because I have past clients. I have, clients that are more health related. We're going into people's homes to do this ministry, and again, my file cabinet is health, so things do pop up. Things have come up like last time I was like, oh, I feel like I hear like chemical. There's a chemical you work with, and he was like, I don't know if that really fits. And then the father who was sitting there, he's like, well, didn't you just like 2 days ago spray like crops for your for someone, and you sprayed it all with this pesticide? And he's like, oh yeah. So it was not like this big chronic ailment, but there was something that was popping up that he needed right then to help with that chemical that he sprayed like 2 days ago. So sometimes supplements come up, sometimes therapies come up, sometimes it's spiritual trauma, emotions that just need to be witnessed and expelled, and just to get those out. So far, it's been pretty exciting and pretty new venture that I can't wait to see what is unveiled with this. So I'll keep you updated. If you've got any questions about it, you can go ahead, and you can always look at my Core Ward website, because that's me. And then Leah and I are working together for this ministry and hoping that grows. But I prayed for it. I prayed for her. I prayed for these women's groups that I'm getting as well. But I prayed for an intercessor. I prayed for somebody that I could go with and do this without being just like behind my computer on a Zoom, which, is not bad, but like it's lonely. It is so lonely to do this work alone. And you're not supposed to do it alone. You're supposed to go 2 by 2 by 2 by 2. And so now we're going with each other to help others. It's just, it feels right. And so I'm very grateful for her, and I'm very grateful for all the people she knows, the divine connections and blah, blah, blah. But I'm really grateful for what he laid at my feet. He's like, here you go. You you weren't supposed to be doing Pilates. So as soon as I quit that, he was like, ta-da, good job. Take this. I was like, okay. So I went from one door closing to a door opening. So it's exciting.